in just one copy or 2 copies. So if you had the opportunity of seeing this and you make 1 copy, you can now give this to 2 people, the original plus the copy. And if each one of those makes just 1 copy and hands the original that he received, eventually this message will pass on to everybody, and all those believers in God who wish to become monotheists again and no longer wish to become worshippers of Satan, who want to end our permanent enslavement to the banks, who want to end our slavery, to gain back our freedom, all these people, all of us, can in our own little way, by spreading this message to people who think the same way as we do, can voluntarily bring about a system which we all treasure, a system which we choose because that is what we want, and not something that has been forced upon us, which has been called democracy, and one which is making us a slave. So I ask you once again, are you ready for freedom? And if you are, the power to gain your freedom is in your hands. And I am left with just 7 things that I wish to go through with you. Number 1, the masters of democracy have spent a lot of time and made a lot of effort in promoting the illusion that it is the poor that are the greatest beneficiaries of a tax system, that the state is some form of Robin Hood which robs the rich and gives to the poor. This is something I want to emphasize is far from the truth, that the greatest losers under a system of taxation are in fact the poor. If you look at the revenue, you will find that 2/3 of the revenue generated by the government actually comes from individuals, and company taxes is about 1/3. We know from experience that most of the major corporations pay a paltry amount in taxes, and in fact there are instances where some of the largest industries in fact do not pay taxes because of the laws that they have been able to influence, that they are in fact beneficiaries of tax rebate. In other words, taxes collected from the individuals going to companies, quite the reverse of what we believe the situation actually is. The poor actually benefit when we don't have a tax system, because all the taxes which we pay for, the hidden taxes, fall away. The taxes of income duties, value-added tax, taxes on petrol, and all the other licenses that we pay fall away. So that if you are currently earning 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, 2,000 a month, without you realizing, a vast proportion of that is paid in taxes. Today, under this new system, you would benefit from the total amount of yours. Also, finding employment would be easier. Cost of living would be less. We would be able to do much more with much less. So this illusion that taxes are for the poor is an illusion. Under this system, we would benefit. Point number 2. I've constantly referred to the term Satanist, and I need to explain what I mean. I said at the beginning that we have 2 religions, religion for the worship of God and the religion for the worship of Satan. And why I say this is, we have teachings from God which is to our benefit, and Satan wants to enslave us, and Satan promotes policies and principles that will make us his slaves. And when we come across anybody, any individual, any organization who are promoting practices which take us away from God and closer to Satan, whether they realize it or not, whether they are doing it fully aware and with an intention or whether they are themselves victims makes no difference. These people are serving Satan's agenda, and as such, I refer to it for simplicity as Satanists. But it does not mean that these people subscribe to Satan or worship Satan. Many of these people who may find that who I am describing actually describes themselves, I'm not saying that you are a Satanist, but what I am saying is, knowingly or unknowingly, you are actually serving Satan. And if we want to build a new society, a proper society which would go forward and not crumble, we need to build our society based on the values of God, which means that the current Satan-based society has to come down. And in fact, we are seeing this right now. We are seeing modern civilization in the stage of crumbling. If you are following the news, if you are following what's happening in the stock markets, what's happening in the financial system, this era is coming to an end. And we have to make sure that the new one is not another one built on the foundations of Satan, but that this one is going to be built on the foundations of God. I had taken some time in explaining that God exists. And I think it is very important that I once again come back to this, because everything that I have spoken about is based on the knowledge that there is a God, there is only one God. And I would like to just go through it again to remind us, to reinforce us that yes, there is God. And that is why it is so important, because we know that the teachings are true. We know that God's books that He has sent to us are true. That there is going to be a day of reckoning. That the angels are true. That in this day of judgment we will be held accountable. That there is a heaven and an earth. I went through the fact that God uses complexity in driving home the fact that everything that has developed could not have happened by chance. When we look at the human body, so extremely complex, what we have to bear in mind in relationship to this, that the human body could not have evolved through a process of evolution on a stable world around it. Because if we're talking about the theory of evolution, we are talking about a haphazard world. The entire world has to be haphazard. So the forces of light and the forces of sound and gravity would all be constantly changing and changing at different rates. So a variable and a world which is constantly changing cannot provide the environment, the stable environment for a body to evolve. And in this changing environment, we cannot develop sense organs like the eye and the ear, etc. In addition to that, we mentioned that God gives us evidence in the various foodstuffs which was prepared in advance of our arrival here. We know also through the periodic table that there is a structure in all the elements in nature, and this order is against a random world. Then we look at the actual structure of the atoms themselves. All